Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us here on Midday Kentucky. Compassionate Lexington, it's a movement seeking to help our community become more compassionate. We wanted to bring in Corey Wilcoxon, senior pastor from Crestwood Christian Church, to tell us all about it. Corey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
So first, let's start with, what is Compassionate Lexington?
So Compassionate Lexington is a movement that has come out of an international movement called the Charter for Compassion. And that was based on a book that was written by Karen Armstrong. And the book talked about how you could live a more compassionate life. And so the Charter for Compassion was created, and it encouraged families, businesses, entire communities to sign the Charter for Compassion and to say that they were going to use compassion as their guiding principle. And so a group's been at work in Lexington for a couple of years now to get us to the point of Lexington signing the Charter and becoming a compassionate city. That happened this past October at the City Council meeting. They passed a resolution making Lexington a compassionate city. And so that's not the end of the work, that's just the beginning of the work, because that's not just a plaque you put on the wall or a slogan you put on documents. It really is a principle you live into. And so what we're working on now is, how do we as Lexington live into being a compassionate city? What does it mean for us to be more compassionate and to use compassion as a guiding principle for us in how we live our lives?
Well, talk to us about how we can manifest that in our community. What does it really mean to be compassionate?
So compassion, if you break the word down, it means to suffer with. And so it's about more than just writing a check, even though that's important, but it really means being willing to enter into someone else's suffering. And that can be tough for us, because it's easy for us to say, oh, you know, it's not my business, you know, I'm not quite sure what's going on with them. But to be compassionate means to be willing to look somebody in the eye, to enter into their suffering with them, to learn more about their story, so that then by being compassionate with them, you're helping to bear their burden. They're not carrying this by themselves. And one of the keys to being compassionate towards someone is to let them know they're not alone. Because so many people will go through something and they'll suffer in some way, and that can take all different forms in our lives. It can be, you know, a transition in our life. It could be losing a loved one. It could be, you know, struggling to make ends meet or finding our daily necessity. But in all those things we think, oh, I'm the only one who's going through this. No one else knows what it's like. So being compassionate means extending a hand to them and saying, I'll walk with you through your journey. I'll bear this burden with you, let you know you're not alone, for the purpose then of helping to bring you out of that suffering and help you bring you into your next phase of life.
And that can be really important during the holidays.
Yes.
Do you have any examples of how we can be compassionate neighbors, compassionate friends in the holidays?
Yes, and I think there's two ways we can do that, because, you know, during the holidays, it's when we're encouraged to be generous, because it's sort of a giving season anyway, and organizations encourage us to do that. We may buy, you know, gifts for an angel tree child, or drop money in the Salvation Army bell ringers bucket. But I think being compassionate, those things are important, but being compassionate goes beyond that. And I think there's two ways we can do that. Number one is to look around us, sort of in our sphere of relationships, and see the people who may not come immediately to mind for some folks, but who maybe will be spending the holidays alone, who maybe that we know lost a loved one this year, who do we know that's maybe having trouble making ends meet. And to be compassionate towards them means to go to them and to look them in the eye and say, how can I help you during this time? It's making a connection sort of at a human level. So one way is just to look around us in our workplace, in our neighborhood, maybe even our own families, and see who is it that needs to have that human connection, to have someone help them bear their burden. And then the second way I think we can be compassionate during the holidays is to remember that our compassion shouldn't be limited to the holidays, right? We'll do so many things during these holidays to help people. For example, my church just packed 200 food boxes yesterday that's going to families at the Nest. But we have to remember that those families will still need food on December 26th as well. And so being compassionate during the holidays is recognizing those needs and then committing to live out the principle of compassion, not just through the holidays, but into the new year as well.
Well, really important information. We appreciate this initiative you have going in the community. Where can people go to find out, you know, what's next for Compassionate Lexington? You'll have some events coming up. Where should they go?
Well, that's what we're still working on. So what we hope to do at the beginning of the year is we'll be launching a website, and we'll be publicizing information about that so you can learn more about it. There's going to be a logo contest. And then our big event is going to be April 22nd. There's a group from Leadership Lexington that's putting on an event called Let's Give Back. And the whole idea is it's a week-long community engagement. And our goal is to get everyone in Lexington to do one compassionate act towards another person. I mean, you've talked already in this show about homelessness and bullying. these are the kind of things we can make a real difference in people's lives if each of us seeks to be compassionate towards one other person. So we're going to be getting more information about that Lex Give Back Week in April.
And we look forward to hearing all about it. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We will send things to break now, but on the other side, we're back in the kitchen with Allison Davis taking a look at a holiday quiche recipe. Stay with us. This is Midday Kentucky.